Hi, welcome to Chadwick Model Railway, and this is the Christmas special. Well, it's been a funny year. This is the 46th video I've done this year because I've had a bit of time on my hands because there's a bug going around. So what's in this video? There's a few bloopers, a few tips, my views on the Hornby 2020 awards, and some very sincere thank yous that I need to get out. So let's crack on. A few weeks ago, I received this envelope in the post from a chap called Marcel from Lawrenceville in the USA. And within this package, there were 6 M8 type nuts, but they had an Allen bolt fitted through them. And the reason for this is, when I built the helix, I missed out one of the nuts. But as you can see here, with the little Allen bolt and the Allen key, you can place this nut over the top of the threaded rod to give you a secure fitting. Marcel, thank you very much indeed. This is what Marcel looks like, very Christmassy, thank you. Marcel, I'm very grateful. Thank you very much indeed for getting me out of trouble. The solder, something to adhere to. And then obviously I need to ouch! Throughout the year, I've come across items that I think are worth publicising, so I sort of do a tips and tricks video or whatever. But this must be the best and cheapest tip that I have found to date. It's not my invention, it's not my discovery, but it is worth publicising once more. So what is this I've got here? Well, it's a piece of Pico Code 100 00 rail with a small bend in it, and then this little bit here is probably, I don't know, about ½ inch bend. And what do I use it for? Fitting fish plates. So this really couldn't be any simpler. So you pop the fish plate onto this little tool and then offer it up to the rail. And what really could be simpler? It is so straightforward. You might have to grip the fish plate to keep it on there, but it really is just such a simple little discovery. It might be a little more difficult with something like Code 75 bullhead track, but hey, you got to give it a go. A piece of bent rail. It's cracking. And you can see how they interlock. They don't have to touch. And then underneath the locomotives, which is supplied in the packet from DCC Concept, are magnets, and if you fit as I short out the track. Now, one omission I did make from last week's video was when I laid these curves around this area here, was I didn't really show you that once I'd soldered 2 pieces of the Pico FlexiTrack together, I didn't show you that I'd actually installed droppers as well. The droppers didn't show up in the video because they were always at the right hand end of the curve, but rest assured they are fitted. And one other thing that I noticed a couple of days ago was that on tracks number 7 and 8, they're just about to end here and go straight into a point. Well, with block detection, I needed to cut these rails to install a insulated fish plate to allow a stop mark to go in. If you're not into that kind of block detection blah, don't worry about it. But if you are, you'll hopefully know what I mean. Press 8, then the table lamps come on. They look sort of reddish if I turn off the main lights, and then you can see those table lamps. But they're not, they're just a warm yellow. The same as the... A couple of weeks ago, I did a video on the power base that I've installed over there on the helix, and using this somewhat tired 9F, I did a series of runs up the helix to show that it lacked grip or power or whatever once I started extending the number of coaches. But there were some cynical viewers, and they turned around and said, well, I don't think it makes any difference at all, and of course you add a bit of weight. Well, the weight you add with these tiny magnets is minimal, but there's no real way of showing you how it works, you know, how much grip you get from it really, without using a Newton's scale or whatever. But there's one piece of power base, there's the rail, and if I give this 9F a good shake, clearly the rail doesn't come away because the grip is reasonably strong. So hopefully you can see that this power-based system does actually work. Not very scientific, not very scientific, was it? And if I take the power base away, well, get away, the track falls to the ground. So yes, it works. And if you have problems with inclines, give it a go. So now let's move on to the Hornby 2020 Loco of the Year Awards. And let's not imagine they're voted by Hornby magazine. They're not. They are voted by readers of the Hornby magazine, quite rightly so. And the results were, in third place was Hornby's Princess Royal, in second place Hornby's Rocket, and in first place was Hatton's Class 66. The newer 66, that is. I asked for people's views in my comments in last week's video, and needless to say I've had quite a few, and I've also had a few emails because obviously people didn't want to put those comments into the public domain, understandably if you'd read them. There was only one comment on the Princess Royal. It was a favourable one. As I imagine most of the people who watch my channel, you know, weren't really interested in that model. They had more things to say about Rocket and the Hatton 66. So let's move on to the Hornby Rocket. I was lucky enough to be given one by a subscriber by the name of Tim. He sent it to me. I ordered the chip for it, opened it up, attempted to fit the chip. It wouldn't fit. This is the chip that Hornby recommend. It doesn't fit. You have to take a pair of snips and snip back the 6 pins so that they actually will come together. Once I'd fitted the chip, I put it on the rails and it ran almost for 2 or 3 minutes. It was quite shocking, really. And then it stopped, so I picked it up, and I haven't got hands like a bunch of bananas. I really am sort of quite delicate with my gear. And both of the cables that go from the loco to the tender, because the tender's where all the clever bits are, had both come off. So I turned it over, took it apart, soldered them back up, put it back together, put it on the tracks and blew the chip. Now whether that's because I soldered them the wrong way around, who knows. Also, in the water tank, that's where the chip goes. If you push the chip in, you can actually push off the cables from the pickups, which is another thing I did, which also needed soldering. I then reverted it back to DCC and ran it on the layout, well, on a large piece of test track for a while, just to give it a going over, and then realised that it couldn't really go at a scale speed of less than, say, 20 miles an hour. And when you know that the real Rocket did something like, I don't know, 10 miles an hour, it's not quite in keeping, let's say. Not getting away from the fact that it is a lovely model, though I'm a little bit concerned that the yellow on the loco and the yellow on the coaches don't match. I've been in touch with another YouTuber. His name is Chris, and his channel is D402DDS, and I'm very grateful for Chris for this piece of footage. And as you can see, the DCC decoder, when pushed into the socket, doesn't fit. Eventually he got it to work, and it trundles around his layout, and I think he would say that it's probably adequate. Myself, I think it's a kind of a Monday Friday kind of locomotive. You either get a good one or a bad one. Make no bones about it, I've had a lot of comments saying that this is a brilliant loco and people are chuffed to bits with it, and fair play. I was appalled with the model that I had. I sent it back to Tim. I know it sounds ungrateful. I said, Tim, take the receipt, which was in there from Hatton's, 189 quid, take it back to Hatton's and get your money back. This particular model is unfit. It's unfit for service. You shouldn't have to, endure this. Get it back and get your money back, because this is an appalling piece of, engineering. It really was dreadful. But there we go. That's my view on it. The sad thing is, of course, when I read the reviews in all the magazines, it was all brilliant. Some magazines, or one magazine in particular, hadn't actually fitted a DCC decoder, but there we go. But I thought it was awful. But I mean, the jury's still out. I mean, the people who voted for it in the magazine, they clearly are chuffed to bits with it. If I was you and I had the Triang box collector's model, I would stick it on the shelf, and that's where I'd leave it. Well, that invariably takes us to the winner, which is Hatton's Class 66. And I'm incredibly grateful this time to Peter Dixon for the footage I'm about to show you. Peter has several of these, to say the least, but he's content with the standard of engineering that it comes with. He thinks it's a reasonable price. The finish on the various liveries is good, so he's prepared to accept the poor engineering quality in certain aspects, namely the wobble. Now, as you can see here, the locomotive does wobble on his rolling road, and there are numerous reports of this on the threads that I've been given and the emails that I've received. It's, what would you call it? A feature. It's just the way it is. It's a design feature, and if you look at, I do recommend you go to Peter Dixon's channel, because he has found a way around this. You can sort of modify the axle boxes and sort it out, and the wobble will go. What else is wrong with it? Well, by design, there are 6 switches inside the body shell. So you have to take the body shell if you want to change the lighting configuration. That's not the best of ideas. The amount of people that I know, and I've done it myself, taken a body shell off and broken the steps, broken the handrails. My Hymex, I take the shells off and I break the horns off. It's just so easy to do. These things are so fragile. But how it can win the award must be by the numbers of locomotives that Hattons have sold. Because if they sold, I don't know, let's say they sold 20,000 and 10,000 were chuffed to bits and they voted for it, then it's going to win, and the other 10,000 just sit there and grumble and wait for Peter Dixon to produce a video on how to fix theirs. But there we go. But I'd like to take it a stage further with Hattons, because here is the Hattons used Class 66 sale page on their website, and as you can see, there are several. And scrolling through these slowly, you can now read why they're up for sale. Damaged steps, missing handrails, wobble, wobble, wobble. And I think there's something like 14 on this page of used Hattons 66. Now clearly these have been sent back by dissatisfied customers. Hattons have turned them around and put them on the for sale page and declared the fault. So therefore it's sold as seen, you know what you're buying. But it's not ideal. So getting back to where we were in the first place, is what were the reviews of the Class 66 like? Well, in the magazines that I read, the Class 66 got a good, decent review. And not only that, quite a few YouTubers gave it a shining review, until you get the less popular YouTubers, let's say, who do more in-depth, not how-tos, but reviews of models when they take them apart and show you the faults. So there is an air of honesty. And on the subject of honesty, when we read reviews in model rail magazines, should we be a little more cynical, knowing that how much these companies pay for advertising space, they're hardly going to get a poor review from the magazines that they're advertising in. Bit cynical, food for thought perhaps. Moving on. I've refitted the front bogie just so we can get power off that bogie into the unit, and obviously now last week while I was doing my curved track laying, I used a couple of these tools from goldenvalleyhobbies.com, and people have searched for them on their website. It's not much point really, because they've sold out, and the manufacturer is currently not made, well, is awaiting supplies before he can make more. But I shall leave a link in the show more tab, because they're also available in so it's N-gauge and 00. And I'll leave a link, because it's hard in their website, it was hard to search for them. They sent me the direct links, so if you go into the show more tab, you'll find them. But furthermore, I have also missed an opportunity to show you what else they do, and that is you can use them just like a track setter. And that is, rather than using the 3 locating lugs vertically to do track separation, you can actually lay them so you can work your way along the track and put in the curve that you're after. Very similar to the Pico track setters, except you get even more versatility because the whole thing is adjustable. Someone inquired how I managed to turn on and off the lights in the railway room automatically. Well, I use this little cheap and cheerful switch from B&Q. You get 2 in a pack for about £11 and they work very, very well. You know, it does the job. You know, I don't have to go around and switch everything off at night. These ones will do it. A couple of little shout outs. Lee Stoddart, as usual, he's my track planning expert. Lee, I am extremely grateful for what you do. And also Gary Spicer, a chap who lives in Spain, who sent me a load of 4th radius curves with a minimal charge, let's say, for postage, but it was a very generous thing to do. And now finally to finish, it must be serious because the glasses are coming out. Charlie, thank you for keeping us entertained throughout this year with the wonderful updates from Chadwick. In one of the chats, I saw you the mention of Lafroig, a very nice whiskey. So I thought you might like to try a drop from my local distillery, Glendronach. I hope you like it. Well, Will, thank you very much indeed. And to everybody who watches this channel, gosh, it's rather nice. To everyone who watches the channel, I am so grateful for your loyalty throughout this year. My numbers have risen incredibly well, and I am so pleased to have so many subscribers and people who follow and leave such wonderful comments. It's extremely rewarding. That was a bit sharp, but there we go. Anyway, thank you all very much indeed. I thank my patrons and the people who donate to the channel. You make it all possible for me to do it. I am so grateful. If you're not a subscriber, there's a button, and hopefully there should be a button, a video here and here. And I'll see you in the new year, but do stay safe. There's a bit of a bug around. Take care. Bye-bye.